I think it's really cool that she was even open to understanding, and the chapter that she chose to read out of was all about deprogramming and getting out of the simulation and getting out of the matrix and all these kind of topics that have really been discussed in occult communities for a very long time, but have become buzzy and mainstream a little bit. Sometimes it's a bit disheartening when people talk about magic like it's a theoretical thing, but they're not really doing it and they're not applying it to their lives. And I was just trying to get people to be like, look, we can talk about magic for all day, but it's so different when you actually do it and you apply it to your life.
But Pop Magick is a little different in that we think of magic and you think of like Aleister Crowley doing some big ritual in a room, or Kenneth Anger doing like finding like Egyptian artifacts and shooting them with naked women and whatever.
Yeah.
And Pop Magick, as I read it, it's so embedded in our current almost digital social media culture that it feels like Pop Magick in some ways, and I don't mean this in a bad way, but a good way, in some ways is like kind of self-help, present shock, Cal Newport. How do you maintain coherence in an age when every piece of media is trying to knock you off your game?
Absolutely. And when we talked last year and I was telling you, like, the world is in so much chaos, and you were like, well, this is the best time to do magic. That really stuck with me because as someone who wrote the book pre-pandemic, I had no idea what I was about to get into. Like, I'm this big talker writing this book being like, oh, okay, bring order to chaos, deal with life interruptions. And then the universe throws me this thing that rips apart my idea of normal, challenges all of my belief systems, takes away my routine and structure, makes my friends and family and loved ones in danger, shuts down my city. And then I have this book I wrote sitting beside me, this self-help book, being like, okay, are you ready? It was so bizarre.
But I do think that's true, that chaotic times are easier times for magic for a lot of reasons. And I mean chaos partly in the good sense of chaos is like things are like turbulent, so that you can do in real sort of chaotic turbulence, like fractal chaotic turbulence, when there's enough turbulence that things are like more like an ocean and seemingly unpredictable, like big weather systems. That's like when you can start to do pattern recognition again. When you're living in a tightly controlled society and everybody's going to work and coming home and believing the thing and reading the paper and eating their sandwich, it's like, what do we do with that? But when things are like just kind of crazy and it's like, oh my gosh, what's happening on television's like what's happening on Twitter's like what's happening in this classroom, and Trump is this, and Keck the frog, and and oh my God, it's like, oh, these, now we can for all the problems that are going on, but now at least we can play. There's like the raw material.
It's so interesting to think about, to think of the chaotic events around us as like raw substance and raw material that gives us the freedom to play magically. Because at that point, what does the psyche say? It's like, well, what left is there? What left is there but magic, but spirituality, but playing, going into the astral world, playing with the upper worlds, bringing unison and bridging heaven and earth. What is the difference? Like, this gives us the opportunity to do that. You're exactly right.
In some ways, the necessity, right? If you're really trapped in a screwed up society, it's like the only thing you can do, at least to gain your bearings, you kind of have to turn inward for a moment.
Oh yeah.
Or at least, if not inward, at least inward enough to feel your feet on the ground, a moment of safety.
And to go within and find all your diamonds, like really, and that's what the COVID for spiritual people and hopefully other people were challenged and sent into that place. Is they were sent to this place to challenge the consensus of reality and their routine and everything, and say, what can I bring that is new? What can I change? What am I actually passionate about? And they were given this sense of like global pause that I think was very magical and angelic in a way.
Right. Well, at least for, those of us who were lucky enough not to be, frontline Amazon workers. We had enough fat in our bank accounts or, flexibility in our work that we could sit behind a computer. It was still, even if that 70, 80% of Americans were, isolated in one way or another, That's a lot of people suddenly going, okay, now what? It's like I would talk to friends like 6-8 months in, and they would say, kind of used up everything on Netflix. Now what? And I would start talking to them like you. Okay, well, now it's time, well, how's your wife? Look in your children's eyes. They were thinking like, do I get Amazon or, or Criterion Channel, Hulu?
Yeah.
What do I get? And I'm like giving them some whole spiritual wrath. It's good that you've made it to the end of Netflix. It's good. Now
That's
you can
hilarious. That's so hilarious that they literally came to you to confide and be like, hey man, I reached the end of the feed. What now? like that feed's not supposed to have an end. It's supposed to be endless. And ironically, right, Kabbalah, Ein Sof, endlessness, where our digital world is starting to mirror endlessness. And we're stuck in this lower density malchut, right? And like you said, most people didn't have, like, let's say, the consciousness to see the opportunity in the spiritual events that happened last year, but they were like, okay, let's just anesthetize ourselves more. But that wasn't the point. The point was to deal with all of the correction, the tikkun underneath everything, and initiate that process of being like, how can I alchemize?
Right. Well, do you think alchemizing, it's interesting. I don't know what Crowley would say. He'd probably say no. But do you think alchemizing is for everybody? I mean, I guess that's the underlying contention of Pop Magick is this is here for everyone.
Yeah.
The Kabbalists would say you've got to be, married and 40. Once you're 40 years old, married with 2 kids, then you can start asking these questions. And you're almost like you're inviting the, college kids and high school kids. It's like,
the teenagers.
Come on and play.
Yeah. And it's interesting, right? Because we've talked about this before, this idea of our people's frontal lobes developed enough to handle the power of magic, and the karmic debts, and the kids who read LaVey and then they evoke a demon, and then their mom gets in a car crash and they think, oh wait, I thought it was all a joke, and it's like what does it mean? And I've often thought about this recently, is this idea of the mainstreaming of magic. Is this good for society or is this bad for society? Because what I'm proposing in my book is, here is a non-dogmatic, non-discriminatory spiritual system. If you've been alienated by authoritarianism, religion, control, and you have been shunned from the system, here's an idea to be creative and initiate a sense of spirituality in your life if you have none. But then you really think about it. I ask my friends who have the book and they're like, well, I'm really scared of this book. And I go, why? And they're like, because I feel like magic is going to reveal parts of myself that I don't want to face yet. And I'm like, whoa, how do you know that? Yeah, that is so weird.
Well, yeah, but even if you just play simple Crowley, right?
Yeah.
To the will, right? So you go to the will and you follow your will, do what thou wilt, and if you sit with that as a person for 20 minutes. It's like, what do I will?
Yeah.
What do I will?
Yeah.
I don't want, wait a minute. I'm on this course. I'm on a track. I'm in college. I'm trying to do well in my GREs so I can go to grad school so I can get a job. I don't want to think about what I will,
Yeah, exactly.
Be,
it's like people's own full potential terrifies them. The idea that they have a will, the idea that you can use the same will to open up a doorknob, to initiate something on the astral plane through magic, through your mind, through directing energy, is very intimidating for a lot of people.
Everyone I talked to always thought magic was about you find out your will and then you make it happen out there, right? Because now I got magic and I'm going to use magic to make that thing I really want to have happen.
Yeah.
But I always saw the work, all the rituals, all the stuff Crowley was doing was more to determine, just find out what is your will. What do you actually want? That's the scary part. And once you know it, what you want to see happen here, you start making it happen anyway. It's like, that's when I think when Crowley always says, just do the ritual, and then forget about it. It's not because, now the EBGB magic creatures in the ether know it and they're going to go out and carry it out like a Facebook algorithm. I think it's more, no, now you've acknowledged what you really want. You've acknowledged it, that's what you're going for. And now go live your life.
You've tapped into one of the biggest magic secrets. Do not lust after the result.
Right.
That's the big thing. And I think exactly what you said is a big part of this process. It's this idea that, you know, what can I do to bring myself closer to my soul and my essence? And that's what we do when we practice magic, is like you said, if you're actualizing a hidden version of yourself, who you really are, that, and expressing that out into the world, and you're feeling aligned with your soul and your essence, that is a form of magic, right? And I guess the thing that I struggle with is a lot of people don't understand that magic is also about a lot of internal work. It's not just about getting things, it's about transformation and changing. And I would like to personally believe, on my own path and what I've seen, is that the more you inner transform, the more you're able to manifest.